Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for this episode of SVB Live featuring James Ferrari, who is with a company that is all of his own. So, James, we want to hear a little bit about you, your background, and what led you to work in the lymphedema field.
Well, my company's name is Functional Transformation Mobile Rehab, and I am an occupational therapist who specializes in lymphedema therapy and Parkinson's therapy. My mom suffers from lymphedema, so that's how I got into the lymphedema therapy. Seeing someone struggle for it and knowing that there's not a lot of lymphedema therapists around the country, and knowing that it's such a problem in the whole elderly community. There's so many patients I saw doing home health for 13 years that had wounds on their legs that would not heal due to all the fluid buildup. And with all that fluid built up in the interstitial spaces, it makes it harder for wounds to heal. And with lymphedema therapy, you get the fluid, you get the lymph system jump started basically. A normal lymph fluid per day is 6 liters of fluid moves through your lymph system a day. With doing the manual lymph drainage, I times that times 10. So you get the fluid moving 60 liters of fluid a day instead of 6 liters of fluid. And then you have to use compression to keep the fluid from returning to that leg or limb, the arm, limb, or even stomach. So you do some sort of compression of some type. Most of the time it's a wrapping of the leg. And the combination of the manual lymph drainage and the wrapping helps push the fluid out of the body. So the patients will be going to the bathroom quite a bit.
Yeah.
While you're getting treated.
So for those of our viewers that don't know much about lymphedema, what are some of the main causes? And what exactly, is it?
Well, lymphedema is accumulation of fluid in the interstitial spaces. And the interstitial spaces is the space that's in your arm or leg that's not considered blood vessels or arteries and stuff like that. So once the fluid leaves the blood vessels, there's never going to get it back in the blood vessels. So you have to use the lymph system to push the fluid out. It used to be believed that you could get the fluid to go back into the blood vessels, the veins and everything like that. But it's been proven with new recent studies this last year that the lymph system is now responsible for 100% of the fluid return once it's out of the veins and the arteries into the interstitial spaces. It's now the lymph system's responsibility. So the number one cause in the United States is cancer, and breast cancer is the leading cause in the United States of lymphedema. But there's also lymphedema can occur from chronic venous insufficiency, where you have leaky veins, where the veins just keep leaking fluid, and it's just going to keep building up, and then just gradually it's going to get out of control, and your lymph system can't keep up with it. So you get the accumulation of fluid in the interstitial spaces, where a lymphedema therapist can come in and get that fluid out and help teach you and educate you on how to keep it out. And the hardest part and the reason for the biggest failure with lymphedema therapy is the compression garments. Oh. Compression is one of the most important things to maintain it. We can get the fluid out really good, but if the patient doesn't wear the compression garments, it just won't work.
And they're not the most comfortable things in the world, are they, James?
And unfortunately, they're not, but they're getting more and more comfortable. But we also live in Florida. So Florida and the heat with compression garments is a hard sell for a lot of patients.
So is this something that they have to wear for the rest of their life?
It's for the rest of their life. Now, the more they wear it, they can go a couple hours with a more lighter type garment on, and even maybe go out to dinner without the garment on for a couple hours. But they have to wear it the rest of the time.
Wow.
Because if they don't wear it within 3-4 hours, it's going to start building back up.
Yeah.
The fluid's going to start building back up. It's just like when someone loses weight, they're going to get that flabby skin, when they lose the weight.
Yeah.
And it takes time for the stuff to shrink down, like the leg to shrink down, so the cells don't want to reabsorb water, and we got to get the proteins out of the interstitial spaces because those proteins want to attract water.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to get the fluid out and get it out and have it excreted out the body somehow to keep the fluid out.
Right. So the lymphedema pump is actually reducing the size of the water that's in there, or the fluid that's in there.
Yeah. What we're doing is when we're doing the manual lymph drainage, there's basically four main components of it: the manual lymph drainage, skin care, exercise, and compression. Those are the four components of lymphedema therapy. The two most important is the manual lymph drainage, because that speeds up the fluid. And then the compression, in my opinion, is the most important, because without it, you're not going to have success. Right. Unfortunately, unless you're in stage 1, where it's a very mild form of lymphedema. Then you can get away with getting it pushed out without having to wear compression. But that's why early treatment is one of the most important things, not letting it go. Like if you had breast cancer and you notice swelling in your arm, don't ignore it, because early treatment prevents it from going to the next stage. And while you're in stage 1, lymphedema is reversible. But once you get to stage 2, it's not reversible.
How fast does it come on, James? How fast does something like that start happening? Can you catch it fast enough to do?
Oh yeah, you can definitely catch it fast enough. You just don't want to wait and ignore the signs. That's why a lot of breast cancer surgeons now are having us lymphedema therapists come out pre-surgery and doing pre-measurements, and they are having us do pre-measurements, range of motion, and girth measurements. So when like the week before the surgery, so then a week after surgery, they send them back out to us, and we do measurements again. That's perfect. And we can determine whether they've had an increase. So that's a good sign, if there's an increase, that they're going to have problems with lymphedema.
Gotcha.
So but you also get the fluid moving, and it helps prevent it. It's used as a preventative of developing lymphedema. Then you can educate the patient on what to expect, what to possibly expect and look out for. So the education part is one of the most important things, educating people what to know, what to look for. Like when they fly on a plane, if they've had their breast removed, to wear compression on their arms, because flying on a plane could cause lymphedema to come on. Or I had a patient who arm wrestled his daughter, and it caused his lymphedema to come on. So just something as simple as that can cause lymphedema.
You mentioned breast cancer a couple of times. I know that you've recently expanded your team and you're bringing on some specialists. So two things, I want you to talk about that, but is breast cancer really the most common cancer that you see that needs this, or is it any type of cancer?
Well, breast cancer is definitely the most common, but I've had testicular cancer, prostate cancer, any sort of cancer, bone cancer. It's anything where those lymph nodes are being destroyed by the radiation, could be damaged by the radiation, or the cancer gets into the lymph nodes and they're having to remove the lymph nodes. Once those lymph nodes have been damaged in some sort of way, you have the chance of developing lymphedema. And there's ways to control it. And more technologies coming out to make it a lot better. There's surgeons now that are, like at Cleveland Clinic up in Ohio, that are doing a surgery, rerouting it, and that's becoming more and more successful. But early treatment and detection is the key to maintaining it and keeping it in check. If you don't keep it in check, it'll get out of control quickly.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure. So talk to me a little bit about the Parkinson aspect of things and how you're working with Parkinson's patients.
Well, I'm an LSVT BIG certified therapist. And I'm getting ready to do a PWR certification. And both of those are basically high intense program that you do with Parkinson's patients. And when you work, like I'd say about 35% of my patients are Parkinson's. and you just know what to look for with the Parkinson's patients. When you've seen Parkinson's patients over and over again, you gradually begin to learn what typically a Parkinson's patient's going to have problems with. Like bed mobility is their core. They have trouble rotating. They have trouble with their flexibility. So you know what first thing to look at. Make sure they can get in and out of their bed. Make sure they can reach down and touch their toes to dress themselves, or teach them strategies on how to control their tremors. There's like a flicking method that LSVT teaches you that helps calm the tremors down, that allows them to button their buttons. It only lasts for a few seconds, but it still gives them that few seconds to button their buttons. And a lot of my Parkinson's patients have problems with bed mobility because their core is very stiff, and they also have problems getting their lower body dressed. So the LSVT BIG program basically works on patients' range of motion. It works on their core stability. It works on their balance. It works on them moving big, because with Parkinson's, they lose their proprioceptive awareness where they are in space. So they think they're moving bigger than what they are. And that's why you'll see the small little movements they make, and they tend to hold their arm to one side or not swing their arms when they're moving. And that swinging of the arms gives them balance, and it helps them keep moving big. So you basically retraining them how to move and how to basically do stuff in a normal, more bigger movements, because they think they're moving big. Their body's telling them that they're moving big. In reality, they're moving really small. And when they start moving small, that's when they become more of a fall risk, because they move slower and they just lose their balance. So by moving bigger and swinging their arms with them, it allows them more balance and increased independence with their life, basically. And with my business, I go to their house for the lymphedema therapy and the Parkinson's therapy, so they don't have to go anywhere. And we're considered a mobile outpatient clinic. So we take Medicare Part B. I take most PPO insurances. I cannot take any HMO insurances because HMOs don't have an out-of-network. I am in network with Cigna. I was in network with United Healthcare, but that didn't work out. But I could take any of the PPOs, most of the PPOs.
That's really important to talk about ways to pay for your services. So is Medicare?
Medicare is my primary patient. Medicare will pay 80%, and usually the supplement will take care of the other 20%. If that's supplemental, and most people who have Medicare have the supplemental insurance. And then if they have a Medicare Advantage plan that's a PPO, pretty much most of them I can take, but I have to verify, because every single plan has different benefits. If you're under 65, their out of pocket costs jump so much. So I want to make it so cost effective for my patients, because I realize that lymphedema is such an expensive thing. And that's why I became a distributor for the garments. So with my personal patients, if they have problems paying for garments, I can give them a discount to help offset some of those costs that these garments cost.
That's really important, because they're very expensive.
They're insanely expensive. A custom garment can cost $500, and the custom garments are the best garments out there, but $500 is $500.
It's a lot for some people. That is whether or not they get to eat that month. So you're right. Now your services are mobile. So we have, you're really focusing on lymphedema. You do have the breast care specialist, and you also specialize with Parkinson's payments, and you actually will come to their home. Is that right, James?
Yep, it's 100% in their home. And my new therapist, her name is Kanya Shepard. She's an occupational therapist like me, and she's got 5 years of breast cancer experience working in a breast cancer center where that's all they dealt with pretty much the whole day.
Yeah.
And she's coming from New Orleans, Louisiana to move here.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, for our readers and viewers out there that are interested in learning more about how to get in touch with James with Functional Transition Mobile Rehab, please click the chat box above and you'll get all of his information. James, I really appreciate your time this morning, and I just hope you have a best